Tonight we're in lesson 19. So throughout the year, what we do is there are 25 Celebrate Recovery lessons that we work our way through chronologically. And one week we'll do a lesson, and then the next week we'll do a testimony, and then a lesson and a testimony. So if you're new, we're on lesson 19. Don't worry that you missed the 18 before this. There'll be stuff that you'll hear tonight that you can use in your life today and tomorrow. And there'll be some things that I'll encourage you to wait, but there'll be some things that you'll be able to do tonight. But if you've been here with us through this whole journey, through all of these lessons, and I know some of you have, you've done some really amazing recovery work. You've been working hard. You faced your denial, which is often the hardest thing to do. You surrendered your life and your will to Christ, which is amazing. You chose to humble yourself and take an honest look at your life, listing, the good and the bad, confessing and sharing with your sponsor. That's the inventory process in step 4 and step 5. Then you became willing to forgive the people that have hurt you. That's a lot of hard work. You started making amends to people for the harm that you caused them, right? Lots of stuff. You've been working really hard, and we should just stop and give ourselves a woo real quick, right? Okay. Woo! Because you guys have been busting a move. I mean, and here's the thing, right? None of this did any of us think was possible when we started this 19 lessons ago, right? Most of us came in here thinking, well, I really want my life to change, but it's never really changed before. Why would it change now? But I'm sure that if you've been here, right, this whole time, that your life now looks nothing like it did before, right? That it's different, and it's different in a good way. And the reason that it's different in a good way is because Jesus has given you the power to make change possible. Jesus is the reason that our lives have changed. That principle 3, that one where we turn our lives and our wills over to the care of God, that's the one that everything else hinges on. Jesus, when he was here, he explained it this way in John 8:32. He said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Another way you could say that is, you will know Jesus, and Jesus will set you free, right? And then he went on to explain what the truth was in John 14:6, where he said, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." So if you have been set free from anything in your life, right, any addiction, any obsessive behavior, compulsive behavior, you've been set free because of the truth of asking the truth, Jesus Christ, into your hearts, right? That's the only way that any kind of possible change can happen. So now tonight we're going to talk about, that's just kind of a review of the first 6 principles and the first 9 steps. Tonight we're going to talk about principle 7, which says, reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God and his will for my life and to gain the power to follow his will. And then step 10 says, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. We're going to unpack both of those a little bit. And then in 1 Corinthians 10:12, it says, so if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. Oftentimes at this point in our recovery, right, we get through principle 6 and life's looking pretty good. I'm good. Life is good. And we stop working our recovery and we backslide into old behaviors, into old thinking patterns, into old ways of feeling, and all of a sudden life isn't so good anymore. So principle 7 and step 10 are not a call to slow down. They're a call to carry on, right? To keep moving so that we don't stumble and fall. And we want to stay in an attitude of gratitude, right? Where we're thanking God for all the good things that he's done for us. We're going to get to the acrostic in a second, but let me just say this first. So principle 7 and step 10 it might be a little confusing how they work together because they say different things, right? Step 10 says we continue to take personal inventory. And principle 7 says we're going to reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer. Well, those two things go together for the same purpose. And the purpose is to observe the image of Christ and allow his power to make us more like that. So principle 7 and step 10, although they're different in function, they have the same goal and the same outcome. Does that make sense? All right, so you got your worksheet. So we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about the what. We continue to take personal inventory. The why, and when we were wrong, and the then what, promptly admitted it. And we're going to start with the what, which is we take time to do a daily inventory. Now, if you're new and you haven't done a step 4, this might seem a little daunting, but it's okay, right? You don't need to panic. It's going to be okay. The daily inventory is a 15-minute process that's just helpful in identifying patterns of behavior, patterns of thinking and feeling and behaving. So Celebrate Recovery has this really cool little book. You'll see it on our information table. It's called the Daily Inventory Notebook. And this little book has 30 days of note-taking in it. You don't have to spend the $2. You could go to the dollar store, spend $1, get a journal, whatever you want to do. I'm not pushing you to buy one. But in this book, it has the questions that we need to take a look at to be able to do our daily inventory. In Lamentations 3:40, it says, let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. So in this little book, you can't really see it from back there, but there's 2 pages is one day, right? And the first thing it's going to ask you is, what good did I do today? And isn't that amazing that the first thing we're going to do in our daily inventory is we're going to look at what's the good stuff we did? Because most of us, when we got here, we didn't see any good stuff. All we were focused on is how bad we were and all the bad things that we did. So this is a huge shift in the way we look at life, the way we look at ourselves. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at what good did I do today? And then we're going to take an honest look at what areas did I blow it? What areas did I blow it? Did I do or say anything that hurt anyone today? Right? Because we want to quickly handle any hurt that we've caused or any forgiveness we need to offer. We want to deal with that day to day so it doesn't come baggage for tomorrow. Do I owe anyone an amends? What did I learn from my actions today? And then there's 2 more things in the little book that I didn't put on the slide, which are, what are my prayer requests for today? What are the things I want to ask God about? And what's the next action I need to take for my recovery? I can assure you that if you will give the daily inventory a chance, you will see opportunities to allow God to grow you and to change you in positive ways where things are so much better. By the time we get to principle 7, when we're doing this balanced look, right? When we were in principle 4, things looked pretty rough, right? The bad side was way bigger than the good side. But by the time we're to principle 7, the balance has shifted. And I can assure you that the good list is going to be better than the bad list. Yes. That's why we love principle 7 and step 10, because God's been busy and life is better. So the E in our acrostic is going to help us answer the why. And it says, evaluate the good and the bad. Evaluate the good and the bad. So we're not just going to, after we list it, we're going to also evaluate it. The step doesn't say if I'm wrong, although I wish it said that. It doesn't. Or if perhaps I blew it. It doesn't say that either. It says when, right? When I'm wrong and when I blow it, right? That's what the why is. The why is when we're wrong, because we will be. doesn't mean that we're failures. It doesn't mean that we're bad people. It actually means that we're growing and we're able to be honest that, hey, I blew it. I spent so many years lying to myself and lying to everyone else about, I'm not doing anything wrong. What are you talking about? Everything's fine. Anybody else ever used to say that? Everything's fine. Some hands back there, yeah. Everything is not fine, right? But things can be good. So the question that I want you to ask yourself in this section is, would you rather be right or would you rather be well? Would you rather be right or would you rather be well? And when I ask myself this question, I'm willing to be honest about what are the areas that I need to continue to work on and grow in? What are the areas that I'm willing to let other people speak into my life? Because if I try to do recovery on my own, I'm just going to lie to myself. I can convince myself of anything. It's not good. That's why we need a community of Christ-centered people to do recovery with, so we could speak into each other's lives and make better decisions. In 1 John 1, 8 through 10, it says this: if we say that we have no sin, we're only fooling ourselves and refusing to accept the truth. We are lying, and, you see that next part? Ouch. We are calling God a liar because he says that we have sinned. Now, the beautiful part of this is he's saying that we have sinned so we can receive grace. Because if we don't know that we're sinners, right, if we don't know that we've sinned, then we don't know that we need grace. But we do, and he's apprising us of that. He's not saying this to cause us to, dive into a deep pit of darkness. He's saying this to draw us to him because he has something good for us. In John 3:21, Jesus tells us this. He says, whoever lives by the truth comes into the light. And that's what the purpose of steps 10 and principle 7 are, right? They're to bring us into the light of Jesus so we can live in the truth. I mean, there's not much better than that. Doesn't really get much better than that. So once we see the light, then we have a choice. We can either ignore it and turn away from it and go back to our old ways, or we can choose to accept it and receive it. And that's when we do the N in the acrostic, which is we need to admit our wrongs promptly. Promptly. This is another part of the step that I wish would have been written maybe a little different way, right? I mean, the promptly part is so hard. It's easy for me to tell you about some stuff I did 10 years ago before I got into recovery, right? We can talk about that all day, but ask me what I did this morning and I won't talk about it. Right? So the step knows, though, how the author of the step knows how our minds work. And so he's encouraging us, right, to admit our wrongs promptly so we don't have to carry any of that with us. One of the beautiful promises of recovery is that we get to be responsible and accountable for everything that we do. We don't have to avoid it. In Matthew 5:23 and 24, in the Message translation, we hear these words from Jesus, and they're pretty beautiful in this translation. It says this: this is how I want you to conduct yourselves in these matters. If you enter your place of worship, about to make an offering, and you suddenly remember a grudge a friend has against you, abandon your offering, leave immediately, go to this friend and make things right. Then and only then, come back and work things out with God. Right? God wants us to be reconciled with the people around us. I always, have to just put in brackets here that forgiveness does not equal trust. Right? We want to forgive people, and if they have been abusers of us or are dangerous for us, we want to release them to God. We don't need to let them hurt us anymore. But we do want to forgive people and close the accounts of amends and forgiveness as promptly as we can, so we don't have to carry those into tomorrow. So if you don't have a little inventory book or whatever. You could just use whatever notebook you have, and you could just use the questions that I gave tonight. I would encourage you to start tonight when you get home. Ask yourself those questions. What did I do good today? Where did I blow it today? And if you're not, I know with some of the guys that I sponsored, man, this was hard. Like one guy was like, I didn't do anything good. So I started asking him questions. If you can't think of anything good you did today, reach out to somebody in recovery and they'll help you find out what are the good things that you're doing today, because I can assure you, you're doing good things. God's involved. Good things are happening. We just sometimes have to change our perspective on things. I would encourage you to try it for 7 days. I mean, I really would like you to try it for 30, but I'll just ask you to do 7. Try it for 7 days and see what you're able to learn about yourself, and see if you find value, right, in taking this, excuse me, taking this 15 minutes of time to do self-examination, Bible reading and prayer with God, and see what God does with that time with you and how he changes your life.